All right, it looks like things are slowing down, so whenever you're ready, Jen, we can kick things off for today.
Sounds good. So now let's dive into today's session and share all the exciting details about ServiceNow's operational technology management. So again, welcome to our What's New in Operation Technology Management in Yokohama release webinar. And it's actually our first webinar, so we're super excited. So to introduce myself, I'm Jennifer Hong, a product and solution marketing associate. And I'm here today with Ashwin Manapali, a senior product marketing manager, and Faith Xia, a product marketing specialist. Quickly going over the safe harbor notice, this presentation may contain forward-looking statements that are based on our beliefs and assumptions and on information currently available to us only as of the date of this presentation. And quick housekeeping items. First, we'll be having a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And we're also excited to have ServiceNow's product managers with us today who will be answering any questions you may have. And just a heads up, this webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to rewatch it anytime on the ServiceNow community website. We'll also send out the recording link and a copy of the slides after this session. And here, let's take a quick look at today's agenda. So before diving into the release materials, Ashwin will kick things off with an overview of ServiceNow's operational technology management and share some exciting recent news. Then we'll get into the latest innovation in operation technology asset management, which were introduced just last week in the ServiceNow's Yokohama release. We've also added a special topic today, other than the release stuff, which is operational technology management with AI. So Ashwin will share some fascinating insights on how ServiceNow is leveraging AI agents to drive innovation and efficiency in operational technology management. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll wrap up with Q&A session where you can ask our ServiceNow product experts any questions you may have. Now to get us started, I'll hand it over to Ashwin, and Ashwin, over to you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jen. Hi, everybody. So if we go to the next slide, Jen. Yes. So before we start talking about OTM in earnest, I want to spend a few minutes just talking about our platform approach to OTM and pretty much every other function that we have in our organization. We are the AI platform for business transformation. And what that means is that we are at the forefront of enterprise transformation. And it's really about building the systems in place. Then we are an AI-powered platform that drives efficiency, security, and innovation across your entire business. And the beauty of that is that our unified platform connects employees and customers, and we streamline operations across every part of your organization, from IT, security, to finance, customer service, and beyond. And as we start to think about this agentic world that all of us are going into, organizations will be able to gain the intelligence and automation needed to operate with greater agility and results. We don't need to tell you how difficult things are and how rapidly things are changing. And so a single platform, a single data model that extends across every facet of your enterprise is the power that we bring as our platform. And we're bringing that to the OT world. Next slide, please, Jen. One of the things that we hear a lot as we engage with customers in various different events, meetings, and so on, is that industrial organizations are navigating a rapidly evolving landscape. And a lot of this is characterized by the things that you talk about on a day in, day out basis: increasing cybersecurity threats, operational complexity, and the convergence of IT and OT, which is really another way of saying complexity in an ungoverned kind of way. And when we thought about what the operational technology solution should be, we wanted to enable industrial organizations to accelerate your digital factory initiatives, but not just digital factory initiatives, talking about productions in energy and utility spaces, logistics, and all of those other kinds of things. And we want to focus on being able to deliver three critical priorities. Number one, we want to help you strengthen industrial security. And this is done through comprehensive asset visibility, allowing faster detection, mapping, and mitigation of vulnerabilities. The second thing that we want to do is not just have this be a list of assets that you own, but be able to tie this to the production context. So, and production context and workflows. So you can actually rely on us to maximize uptime, operational accountability, and maximize OE. And finally, we want to be in the business of simplification. We have decades of experience making IT seamless and designing workflows around that. And we want to bring those IT best practices to the OT world. We want to be able to break down silos and ensure that there's a streamlined, unified approach to operational technology so that you don't get stuck managing the complexity between different kinds of estates. Bottom line, we want to help organizations enhance their resilience, reduce risk, and drive operational resilience. Next slide, please. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is we continue to listen very deeply to our customers and we invest in our capabilities. So we have organic growth, as Faith will start to get into, and things that we're doing around operational technology and asset management. But we're also thinking about very heavily about going and partnering with the best in class. So that's why I'm quite happy to announce that we have purchased Mission Secure. And this is a very interesting play for us because we have a very talented team and solutions from Mission Secure. And together, what we want to do is deliver robust cybersecurity solutions that are tailored for industrial environments. The union enhances our OT security through advanced threat detection, visibility, real-time risk assessment, remediation, essentially taking the best of what they do, marrying it with the best of the Now platform that I talked to you about. Bottom line is, I think we're in a much more robust solution suite for automated remediation, and so that organizations can safeguard their critical infrastructure while maintaining operational continuity. This is just the beginning, and I'll start to get more into what we're doing around AI. But for now, I want to transition to Faith so she can talk about what's new this release. Faith?
All right, thanks, Ashwin. Thanks for sharing with us the kind of background about what OTM really is and also our exciting new acquisition. Can't wait to see what we do in the future. And in the meantime, I'll transition into talking about what we have for the Yokohama release. So for this release, we're excited to announce a new product offering for operational technology management, which is operational technology asset management. So we kind of focused on this new product for this offering. So that's where all the features we're going to cover in the webinar are going to lay today. But in future releases, we'll have more new features and enhancements amongst our other products as well. So operational technology asset management empowers organizations to oversee and also automate the full lifecycle of industrial assets with prescriptive workflows across functions. These asset types include operational technology or OT assets, which are the connected devices that are controlling machinery, often on industrial networks. We also have operational equipment or OE assets, which is the machinery that is controlled by the operational technology assets that I just mentioned. And then lastly, we also have IT hardware assets on industrial networks, which are any of the IT assets that may be supporting OT or OE assets. So with that, we have 3 exciting new features to delve into deeper today with OTM for this Yokohama release. All right, so first up, we have Unified OT Workspace for industrial and hardware assets. So this is the first feature for this release. Without a unified workspace for mentioning the OT, OE, and IT hardware asset lifecycle that I just mentioned previously, users can often struggle with limited visibility and operational bottlenecks. But the OT workspace and workflow enhancements offers a solution through a single interface that consolidates both workflow and streamlines the asset lifecycle process. This will provide expanded visibility and control over the asset lifecycle, helping to streamline workflows for asset requests, refresh, stock orders, asset onboarding, repairs, RMAs, and disposal processes for OT, OE, and OT hardware assets, tasks and processes that are all condensed into a single unified interface. So this workspace was really created with the goal of helping you achieve heightened efficiency and control over your OT asset lifecycles and enable informed decision-making regarding current and future investments, which will reduce operational costs and mitigate downtime risks. Much like our other asset products for IT asset management, which kind of corresponds with this, we have workspaces for all of those to manage your assets. And now we also have this for operational technology, equipment, and hardware. And they all have a workspace aligned specifically to the role and the types of assets that they manage. All right, next slide, please. The next feature that we're going to highlight today is firmware management. Businesses often struggle to maintain consistent and accurate firmware management across a device array of devices. This lacking management can result in security vulnerabilities, compliance risks, and operational disruptions due to outdated, untracked, or incompatible firmware versions. So, with firmware management model, this solves this by ensuring secure, compliant, and efficient firmware management for firmware installed on OT devices in the manufacturing and industrial environments. So this feature ingests data from third-party discovery tools. Once the firmware installation records are captured, it will identify devices and analyze firmware models to capture firmware model data. This data is then normalized based on a current content library of firmware versions to provide actionable profiles. This data enables ServiceNow OT security tools to maintain vulnerabilities and operational disruptions, thus enabling streamlined lifecycle management and enhanced security practices in different OT environments. All right, and then coming up on our last feature, we have firmware content library and normalization. A lot of times, OT asset managers can struggle to create firmware modules for OT assets, which leads to inefficiencies in tracking and maintaining all these different firmware versions. It can be really difficult to accurately classify and group firmware that aren't represented in standard catalogs, and they might have different firmware products and versions. But with firmware content library normalization, users can create and manage firmware models for OT assets and streamline the general process by registering custom firmware products and versions directly into the OT asset workspace. By defining these unique codes for firmware that isn't represented in the standard catalogs, you can significantly enhance classification accuracy and also simplify the management of custom firmware models and their corresponding CPE. Okay, and with that, that kind of wraps up what we have for the Yokohama release and the new functionalities for OT asset management. And I'll pass it back to Ashwin to start talking about AI.
Absolutely. Thank you, Faith. One of the things that I find so exciting is that the pace and cadence of innovation is absolutely set to high here. And when we start to think about it, agentic AI is what we've heard a lot from our customers. It's going to drive the future of operational technology excellence. And one of the things that we want to say is when we start thinking about our product roadmap or what we want to achieve in the future, we understand that industrial settings are highly regulated in certain cases, and also places where we need to make sure that there's a lot of trust and dependability with the output. So part of what we do is ensure that agentic AI has people in the loop sometimes and making sure that this is auditable, trackable, and orchestrated in a way that meets your specific industry needs. Ultimately, what we want to do is make sure you're able to do more with the amount of resources that you already have without overtaxing your human capital. Can we go to the next slide, please, Jen? I want to give you a quick preview of what we're going to announce soon, and then also kind of shine a light on where we want to go with agentic AI. The first thing that we want to show is some of our AI-powered knowledge and incident management solutions. And in industrial settings, the rapid incident resolution is paramount to minimizing operational disruptions. And these are the kinds of things that we want to go after and we want to announce. For example, knowledge management ensures that teams have immediate access to critical troubleshooting information. So people aren't spending endless time creating knowledge-based articles or finding them and those kinds of things. But there is a helping hand that makes sure that knowledge is generated in a way that is accurate, easily accessible, and easily findable. Next, we have incident management. And we want to leverage AI-driven recommendations to expedite resolutions so that people know what the next best action is, so people aren't looking for what's next and not putting more hours of downtime. And finally, things like resolution notes to ensure that you're accurately and reliably documenting automatically various different kinds of notes, things like that to add to the greater collective organizational wisdom. Ultimately, though, what I want to say is that by harnessing AI, we want to provide industrial organizations with the tool to reduce downtime, enhance collaboration, and drive continuous improvement. There's a lot of things that we're doing with AI agents, AI orchestrators, and a lot of really interesting and mission-critical tools. And I can't wait to share more of those. Stay tuned as we announce more agentic AI capabilities between now and Knowledge 2020. Thank you so much, and back to you, Jen.
Thank you so much to Ashwin and Faith for those great insights and updates. And I'd like to share a few important resources with you. You can always find detailed release information on our community website, including the What's New blog for the Yokohama release. Additionally, feel free to visit our official ServiceNow website to explore more about our other operational technology management products, such as OT visibility, OT vulnerability, and OT service management. And as I mentioned earlier, we're excited to see you at ServiceNow's Knowledge 25 in Las Vegas this May. But in addition to that, we'd like to invite you to another exciting opportunity, the ServiceNow OT Innovation Showcase happening at our New York office on April 1st. This event will give you a chance to explore the future of operational technology management and security with opportunity to network and engage with industry leaders. Registration for both events is now open, so if you're interested, just scan the QR code on the screen to sign up. And now it's time for our Q&A session. If you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat. I'll be handing things off to our outbound product managers, Swapna and Bradford, and a few others who are here to answer all of your questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jennifer. This is Brad. Excuse me, getting over a cold. Let me go ahead and jump into a couple questions here. So the first one, we got a question regarding OT data normalization. Very relevant question. What happens when companies' names that have changed due to acquisition or divestments? How does this get determined and which name is utilized? That is going to be something that the content team, my understanding under Safe Harbor on the roadmap, as firmware management continues to increase, that is the exact kind of things that they'll be looking into. Now, I will level set, as your question alluded to, with acquisitions and the inevitable mergers and acquisitions when it comes to software technologies, or I should say firmware technologies. There will be scenarios where content needs to be looked at. So your first recourse, as always, is to ensure that you're leveraging the appropriate content from the content library. The moment you find out content from the content library is either inaccurate or there is missing content, I encourage you to submit a support case. Submit that support case the objective is not necessarily to look into the configuration, but to say, I've identified a gap in the content or I've identified something in the content that needs to be looked at. I would also encourage you to look into enabling normalization data services. If you find that on ServiceNow docs, you can look at that. While that won't necessarily resolve the continual update of the content, it will ensure that your ServiceNow data model is aligned properly for any content or for any company names, because inevitably you might get various iterations of the same company. For example, you might get ServiceNow, or you might also get ServiceNow with a space in it. So those type of things are where normalization data services can help. Okay, so there's that one. I'll move on to the next question regarding OT for asset management, OT asset management. What value will a client get from purchasing OT versus HAM Pro if OT relies on discovery to populate the asset, similar to HAM Pro? Very relevant question. Let me explain that value proposition for you and why there's a distinction and why there is a separate product and solution. When we're talking about OT asset management, we're hyper-focused as to what Jen and the team were referring to earlier, which are these industrial assets. So these are assets that are apart from, shall we say, hardware devices like servers and laptops. These industrial assets often have very bespoke firmware on them, and the networks that they reside on often use different discovery technologies than, say, SCCM or Intune or ServiceNow Discovery, for that matter. They necessitate a solution offering tailored towards that. and the priorities that are dictated by firmware management. So that is the biggest difference, is that you're going to have a similar look and feel in terms of the overall ServiceNow experience, but you will notice as this product matures, you're going to have things that are focused on within the workspace that are of more importance to those industrial assets. So I hope that gave you some specificity. If not, feel free to ask a follow-up question. Let's go. Okay, so I'm reading this next question here. In the IT asset management space, we can populate a lot of the non-discoverable data via Active Directory, Dynamics, CMDB groups, network. It's just, how would this work for OT? I'll refer to my previous answer. So again, in terms of Active Directory, that's not necessarily what we're focusing on when it comes to these industrial assets. We're focusing on understanding the firmware that resides on them. And very often they use discovery technologies different from the ones listed there. What I can tell you is that along with OT visibility, OT asset management is on the ServiceNow platform and is a part of the CMDB data model, common services data model methodology. So that is the way forward with this. As we continue to invest in this realm and we continue to encounter new technologies, we're really looking forward to working with you all on ensuring that we have the integrations necessary. If we don't already, we have multiple integrations out there to get this data.
Brad, those were great answers. Thanks. I got a question from one of our attendees, and they were wondering what the future roadmap of OTAM looks like.
Yeah. So I can tell you that you might hear about that on some of the roadmap calls next week. So I encourage you to, if you haven't already, perhaps when I'm done answering, I'll put the link in for the call next week to look into that. What we're going to be doing is for Zurich under Safe Harbor, is we're going to be coming out with a lot of functionality to enhance the user experience. So the key focus for this general availability release was this focus on firmware management, and that'll be something we continue to invest in, more so on the back end in terms of like content and things like that. But in terms of what's coming out for Zurich, there's going to be a lot of enhancements as it comes to user experience and things like that. So if you're curious to hear more about it, I would highly encourage you to check out that roadmap session next week. I'm going to put the link in for that right now.
Thanks, Brad. Funny enough, I have another question, I think, because I'm sitting quietly. People are going to ask me things. So next question is, how do you balance reliability and speed with agentic AI?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I can
Go
take
ahead.
it. Yeah. So, within ServiceNow, out of the box AI agents that we are providing, we make sure that there is a clear balance between providing reliability and speed. What we mean there is when we say speed, we want to achieve definitely high speed recommended actions for you using AI agents. So, wherever possible, as part of the entire autonomous workflow that would be provided through these AI agents, we will try to leverage predictive intelligence or Gen AI models to make sure that the whole workflow is kind of accelerated in response. And with respect to providing reliability, basically we make sure that there is a human on the loop to make sure that the AI is not taking wrong actions, which are not supposed to be. In case of, for example, an incident best action workflow or a best action AI agent that we will be providing, will make sure that wherever the approvals are needed, wherever the reviews are needed by the supervisors, there is a human interaction that would be provided through AI agent, now assist. AI assistant user interface. So there is a good balance between reliability and speed, and whatever best practices that we are following in delivering these out of the box AI agents would be given to you so that you can go ahead and build any custom AI agents that you want to go ahead with. Yeah, I hope that clarifies.
Thank you so much. Brad, we do have a follow-up question for normalization status. So normalization status and normalized fields are maintained separately, so should not impact your existing reports and dashboards. Do the normalized names not overwrite the existing names?
Yeah, I'll be honest, Mo, I'm not immediately sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Susan.
it doesn't override because normalization status and the whole normalized models are kept separately in different tables. Asset names are not overwritten. So if you have built any existing reports on the existing names, they would still be not impacted. It's more of a reference for us, the normalized ones.
Yeah, thank you for that perspective, Swam. I appreciate it.
Sounds good. We are not running out of time, but we're almost to the time. And I see that a lot of questions are answered in the chat. So we'll wrap up the Q&A. If you guys have any other questions, please reach out or visit our website. Yeah, so that brings us to end of today's session. Thank you so much for joining us for our very first Operational Technology Management What's New webinar. And we're excited to see how the new feature in the Yokohama release will help accelerate your business transformation and drive even greater success. And I hope to see you at our next webinar, and have a great day.
Well, really quick, Jen, I think we have one last minute question in the chat. Do we have time to answer that? If anyone has last minute burning questions, now's a good time to answer it before we really wrap up. So kind of give you one more minute warning there.
Sounds good. Swapna or Bradford?
Brad, do you want to take up that question?
Sure. So I think, yes, I was referring to normalization data services. So this is it's not necessarily an OT feature. It's more of a platform feature. And what it does is that it normalizes the various iterations of the name. So in terms of being able to review the list before they are applied, V, do you have any perspective on that? I've never actually used it in that manner before. So
I have,
go ahead.
and I do.
Okay.
So no, you would not typically look at the names beforehand. They're pretty much a standardized list. Now, that being said, if you already have companies fill out in the companies table and you turn on normalization data services, what you'll find is as you walk through the guided setup to activate that, you're going to see that it doesn't automatically apply. You're going to have to manually set that flag. So that's one of those things that you'll get a chance to look at them. I do know there are people who don't like some of the naming conventions and they may want a different one. And you do have the option to make a little bit of changes to that, but not much. But if you're curious, I would put it in a subprod or look at it in a personal developer instance. You can turn it on with the data that's available there and see what the normalization options are that are going to show up. So that's an opportunity to look at what the data could potentially look like in your system first.
great. Thank you for answering last minute question. So I will actually wrap up this time. So thank you so much for joining and have a great day.